Afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Into the Stand, where we have quite a bit to talk about today. We're going to start with the NFL draft, and then hopefully have some time, if we have time, get into the New York Knicks, and then some recaps on the Yankees and Mets over the past week. So, starting with the NFL draft, it is tomorrow night. Reminder that Robbie, along with the hosts of the Ball Knowers podcast, are going to be running the a bit of a collab for the NFL draft special tomorrow. Um, where they'll be watching it live, their whole first round, I believe,
Yep.
and just giving their insight. So you'll definitely have a lot of NFL draft coverage on this channel over the next 24 hours or so, or even more than that. And we're gonna start today with specifically, I believe, the quarterback situation. I think we all know is pretty interesting with guys like Drake May and JJ McCarthy and other names like that. So, what do we think?
So obviously the big story about what's going to happen to the top of the draft comes down to a number 3 overall pick, because all sources seem to say that, I mean, we know since the start of the draft process, Caleb Williams is going number 1 to the Chicago Bears. It's now seeming like, originally I thought it was going to be Drake May number 2, but it seems like Washington likes Jaden Daniels more. I mean, there are rumors that there was a workout which Jaden Daniels thought he was going to attend on his own, but they ended up inviting more people. But I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think that Jaden Daniels is going to suit up for the Washington Commanders next season. But the big story is about the New England Patriots at number 3. And we kind of touched on it a little bit last week, but we've heard more reports now. I mean, there's conflicting stuff saying that. Just yesterday, I'm hearing guys like Peter Schrager, hearing Ian Rappaport say that the Giants and the Vikings are making calls to the Patriots. The Patriots are listening to them. They may be willing to trade down. Today, though, we're hearing Adam Schefter saying that there's a chance that New England has a better chance now of staying. So I think really the draft starts here at this number 3 overall pick, because it seems at least like the Patriots are entertaining offers. And what does that tell you? I think it means that maybe they're not completely sold on Drake May. And once again, it's crazy to say, because throughout this entire draft process, up until, Jaden Daniels winning the Heisman, Drake May was the consensus number 2 in this class behind Caleb Williams. So when it comes down to the Giants and the Vikings, what is this going to look like? Well, obviously, it's going to be for the Giants who go to the number 6 pick, definitely a first-round pick next year under compensation. The Vikings are probably looking at 11, maybe 23 comes into play, maybe the first-round pick next year. So what should New England do? Now, personally, if I were the New England Patriots, I would stay put and draft Drake May. But the other adverse reaction could be maybe if they feel like, the reports are saying they may have to build up their roster a little bit more. Maybe they want to get more pieces around that, get more draft capital. So this is where the situation between if you choose the Giants or you choose the Vikings becomes very interesting. Because say, for example, if you take the Giants offer and you get the number 6 overall pick, there's still a chance that JJ McCarthy's on the board, because once again, we don't know how aggressive the Minnesota Vikings are going to end up being, because we all assume, maybe the Cardinals do like Marvin Harrison at 4. So you figure if Harrison goes 4, the Chargers stay put and take Neighbors, then JJ McCarthy falls into the Patriots' laps at 6. If that's what they wanted all along, they come out as winners. But if they end up going with Minnesota, they take the 11, number 23 pick. Odds are New England's not going to get one of the people who many consider to be the top 4 quarterbacks in this class. And they just, have to wait another year to get their quarterback. But as I've stated before on the show, I'm going to speak from the Giants' perspective here, of course. I hope to God that in 24, 36 hours, Drake May is a New York Giant. Do I think it's going to happen? I think that there's a low chance that it gets done. I mean, the fact that the Patriots are entertaining offers is giving me sort of some false hope right now. But listen, Drake May is everything that we need for the New York Giants. I've said many times on this show how Daniel Jones, listen, I've rooted for the guy for 5 years. There's been highs, there's been lows. There's been more lows than highs for the record, but overall, he's a guy who I've rooted for. He has, done a good job in terms of dealing with the media, being a professional quarterback for the Giants, but the time is now. The time has finally come where we need to move on and get a new quarterback for this team. However, I will say that quarterback shouldn't be JJ McCarthy. I don't think JJ McCarthy and the New York Giants is going to succeed. And if the Giants end up taking JJ McCarthy tomorrow night, I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to make that known that I'm not going to be very happy at all. So if Drake May is not an option, like I said, for the Giants at 6, I think you have to go Neighbors. But ultimately, the big story, I mean, the entire time the Patriots are going to be on the clock at number 3, my heart is going to be racing. It's just the potential that you could possibly get that guy who could be the franchise-saving quarterback, at least if Joe Shane and Brian Dable feel that he is. And there's a lot of discussion, at least from Giants fans, where I'm seeing that, we wouldn't want to give up these first-round picks next year. And yes, I do understand that the Giants now have a lot of great pieces in place. We're not a very well-constructed roster, but I'm going to take you back 20 years ago. It actually happened 20 years ago on this day. New York Giants are sitting there, I believe, was the number 4 pick, and Eli Manning went number 1 overall. Now, the Giants wanted to trade up against Eli Manning. There was no secret that Eli Manning and the Giants was meant to happen. John Mara said how he didn't want to give up an extra 5th-round pick to make that trade, but ultimately, the GM Ernie, of course, he said that, listen, you're not going to let a 5th-round pick stop you from getting that quarterback. And as we are here in 2024, the quarterback position is even more valuable than it's ever been. I mean, the guys are getting paid north of $50 million. Just the quarterback position is by far the most important position in sports. That cannot be debated. So once again, if Joe Schoen and Brian Dable have any sort of conviction, this guy can be the guy who can start for 15 years like Eli Manning did, can be a top 10 quarterback in the league, and potentially even be a Hall of Famer. Like I said, I don't care what the package is. You give up every single resource to get this guy. And I've always felt strongly in that conviction. So we'll see what happens on Thursday night. Obviously, Eli Manning, when they decided to trade up and get him, that worked out very well for the Giants. I'm sure they're not going to regret giving up those extra picks because they have 2 Super Bowl championships as a result of that trade. So I am very much hoping for Drake May to be a Giant. I don't know if it's going to happen, but if not, we can make the same mistake we did in 2019 and settle on a quarterback that we think is, worse, but, maybe we can get a little bit of something out of him. If you don't think J.J. McCarthy is the guy, and I don't think he's the guy personally, you don't do that. So it's either Drake May or you finally get that true number 1 wide receiver, which, by the way, only 1 wide receiver has gone top 10 in New York Giants history. So Malik Neighbors already would bring an immediate impact to this offense. Am I necessarily think that the Giants are going to be good next year if we're just running back Daniel Jones, Drew Lock as our quarterback room? No, I think the Giants are going to have a bad year. I think it's more of a punt season if that's what ends up happening tomorrow night. But regardless, if Drake May's there, you do everything, and I mean everything possible to make that happen.
Yeah, and sorry, Robbie, real quick. I just want to, since we're on topic with the New York Giants, just also, right, it would obviously be more exciting, I think, next year if the Giants drafted a wide receiver over J.J. McCarthy, because McCarthy becomes the long-term option. I mean, just in, prime example, I mean, actually, since we're talking about the draft, I mean, Zach Wilson getting traded to the Denver Broncos. I think you understand.
You understand. I'll address that later.
You have to talk about that, yes. But right, you see that how long it took the New York Jets to want to keep this guy and find something in him, and because he was their high draft pick at that quarterback position. If the Giants draft a wide receiver, he becomes an addition to a team that didn't do well last year, but it doesn't mean that this guy would be a bust. It just means that maybe they need a better quarterback, and they obviously weren't in the right position in the draft to get that top quarterback. And so, then you can move on from Daniel Jones after this year and then see what other options, maybe if it's the draft or through trade, whatever it takes, whoever comes out of nowhere and whoever becomes available, right? You never know what could happen. But yeah, drafting J.J. McCarthy would mean that the Giants are going to be locked in on him and sticking with him for years, and then that would obviously be a lot riskier than just getting a wide receiver. So 100%, if it comes down to it, then just take the wide receiver.
I agree with the mindset of both of you guys that the idea of possibly reaching for J.J. McCarthy at 6, I think, is foolish in itself. But I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting with what the Patriots do. I agree with Colin. I think they do stay at the number 3 selection and take Drake May. The only reason where I see this trade happening is if they get multiple first-round picks from a team like a Minnesota Vikings. That's the only team that I really think could actually do it. Is Minnesota. The Cardinals wouldn't want to draft the quarterback. I think they're going to stick with Kyler. So that's I believe one of the only other teams with multiple picks in this first round. The Giants, in my mock draft personally, I do have them taking Malik Neighbors. I don't know. I mean, do you guys think that the Giants could trade down? Do you think that's actually a possibility?
I said that it should happen if the top 5 goes Williams, Daniels, May, then Harrison and Neighbors go, because I think Adunze, Adunze is a good player, but it just comes down to the point where, obviously Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison are viewed as guys who can be instant impact players in this league. So it just comes to a point where, your 2 main needs are wide receiver and quarterback. If the top 3 quarterbacks are off the board and the top 2 wide receivers are off the board, I think you just trade down, get more assets, because like I said before, I like the way the defense is constructed right now. Obviously, more pieces can be used, but you just look at the talent deficiency that is on this offensive roster right now. Because I do like Wandale Robinson. I do like Jalen Hyde. I like some of the receivers that we have. But once again, the problem is that I think these are guys that have potential, but we need the right quarterback to elevate them. We don't have that right now. So the best we can do is just accumulate more assets on offense. Like I said, the only guy who on this offense who I think is like a star, or at least, and like a good NFL player is Andrew Thomas, which once again, very bad sign for next season, at least in terms of scoring points, which the Giants have a lot of trouble doing. But yeah, I think that the scenario where I would trade down is if those three quarterbacks and Harrison and Neighbors are off the board, which for the record could very well happen. So maybe that's when you see a Denver or maybe the Raiders jump up. They want to grab a quarterback. We'll see what happens. But yeah, under that scenario, I would trade down.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said there, Colin. Like I said, I have the Giants taking Malik Neighbors at 6. The biggest question for me is not, I don't even think, because with the news of the Patriots more likely staying at 3, is what the Chargers do at number 5. I have them taking Joel. I feel like this is either Alt or Neighbors. There is no in between. Maybe they shock everyone and take a Dunze. I think that's a possibility as well. But with the way I think this is going to go, with the way that Harbaugh's offense ran with the Michigan Wolverines, what did they focus a lot on? The ground game. How do you emphasize the ground game? With a good offensive line. Pairing Rashawn Slater on one side, Joel on the other, I feel like could be very solid for the Chargers. I mean, they're going to probably want to run the ball a lot. Heck, I don't even know what the Chargers do, because some people think, oh yeah, maybe they trade Justin Herbert. They're not. Maybe they draft JJ McCarthy at 5. They're not. They'd be really stupid to do that. I mean, with Harbaugh's comments at this point, I don't even know what they're going to do. But I have, like I said, I have Alt going 5th and Neighbors going 6th. I think those first 5 picks are now at the news. I think are going to be pretty much more set in stone. Maybe Alt Neighbors goes 5, but I feel like those 6 players are pretty much the top 6 that everyone has. And then the rest of it is just absolute chaos from what I think is going to happen. But I don't know, like, do you guys think there's like a team out of like last year, no one expected the Texans to trade up to number 3. Do you think there's a team like that this year? Like they could just come, I mean, heck, we don't know what it's going to be like in 24 hours when I'm sitting in this chair, possibly reacting to another big trade up to maybe number 3 again. But do you guys actually think there's a logical team that could trade up like that to possibly grab a Marvin Harrison at number 3?
I think that the Cardinals trading up to number 3 for Marvin Harrison. I don't see that happen. And I think he's pretty locked into the Cardinals. Before I get to that, I want to talk a little bit about the Chargers. What worries me, though, about the Chargers is just the fact that the amount of wide receiver talent they lost over the offseason. So just to me, if they want to try to build around Justin Herbert, Rashawn Slater is a great piece on that O-line, but I think it just comes down to addressing the team needs on that offense. I think you have to get Herbert weapons. So that's where them taking Neighbors possibly does scare me, because just throughout the process, the Malik Neighbors to the Giants seem pretty penciled in. But if the draft ends up playing out like that, maybe that's not the case. But if we're talking about teams trading up into maybe the top 10, I don't see it really being for a receiver. I think it has to be for a quarterback, at least in the terms of this year's draft class. Because, there's not, last year we had the Will Anderson trade. I mean, there's not a lot of elite, defensive players. I mean, I've seen a lot of mock drafts. You don't have a defensive player being taken until the 8th overall pick. I don't remember the last time that's ever happened. But overall, I'd say that maybe we're looking at Denver or we're looking at Las Vegas. Now, I thought Denver would be a prime candidate. Now, of course, it's when we talk about the trade with Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson could very well be their starter next season. We don't know what happens. I mean, it comes down to Zach Wilson or Jarrett Stidham. Personally, I'd probably go with Zach, see how Sean Payton can do with him. So maybe they don't make the move. Las Vegas is in the market as well. I'm not sure if they're sold on Aiden O'Connell. Maybe Antonio Pierce wants to get a guy. Maybe that's where we start talking about Michael Penix. That's where we start talking about Bo Nix. So I think that if a trade up does happen, I think it has to be for a quarterback, just because of the way that this year's draft class played out. I don't see a lot of teams being super aggressive to get, a Dunze, although I think a Dunze will be a talented receiver in this league. I don't see a lot of teams really trading up, at least in the top 10 for that talent. It seems like Joe Alt to the Titans has been kind of penciled in by a lot of mock draft people for a long time. We'll see how it ends up playing out. But yeah, from where we stand right now, of course, once again, it could always change in 24 hours. I just think it has to be for a quarterback if a trade up happens.
Yeah, I mean, as for other trade ups possibilities, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, when it comes to your Jets, Robbie, I mean, what do you think they're gonna do?
I think they're gonna stay put. There's no need to move up. I think the pick that a lot of people think that could happen to the New York Jets is Brock Bowers. I'm not a fan of that. Aaron Rodgers has not really been known in the last couple of years to utilize a big tight end. And honestly, I think they're just going to utilize him like how Kyle Pitts is used with the Falcons. I don't want that. I think the Jets should go offensive tackle for the future. This offensive line for the Jets has been so injury plagued over the years. Why not get a guy who's been really steady out of Oregon State? I'm going to bottle this name tomorrow too. With Talise Fuaga out of Oregon State. Big offensive tackle, physical, can get the job done in multiple different ways. I just feel like that's the perfect pick for them, especially after I have a team actually trading up with the Bears at 9. I do have the Saints trading up to snag Odunze because that's just a vibe pick. I do think the Bears are going to trade down from 9 to get more picks because, let's be honest, who doesn't want more picks? And I feel like with the way my mock can go, the Jets selecting an offensive tackle, possibly drafting a receiver later on. I think there's some good weapons early in the second round. I think there's multiple receivers who I have selected in the end of the first round that can really fall. A guy like an Adonai Mitchell, a guy like a Keon Coleman, who I have going number 30 overall to the Ravens. Maybe they fall because of their injury history or past, I think could possibly lead to this possibility, but I think the Jets selecting Fuaga at 10, that's a must. I remember a couple of years ago when the Jets drafted Sauce Gardner at number 4 and then drafted Garrett Wilson, there was a lot of uncertainty about what the Jets would do at 4. Do they draft Derek Stingley Jr., who, by the way, has been great for the Texans? Do they draft Sauce? Do they draft Aquanu at tackle? Do they draft Kayvon Thibodeau? There's a lot of possibilities they had. But the Jets stuck with what they were going to, with what they said, and they drafted Sauce Gardner. I'm hoping they do it again because they've been linked with Fuaga for like forever. So I just think that's a perfect match, especially with the way I have the rest of the first round going. I'm
what about Fashanu? How do you think he's going to
Fashanu? I have at number 7. I have him going to Tennessee. I agree with you.
Would you rather Fashanu or the one you said at 10?
I don't know. It's a weird question. I don't think Fashanu would fall. And I don't think the Jets needing to trade up, knowing the desperation that a team, I think, like New Orleans could have for a receiver at 9. Because let's think about New Orleans real quick. I don't think they're going to keep Michael Thomas, if they even kept Michael Thomas. I don't even know where he is. They need someone better than Michael Thomas. Why not? Okay. Chris Olave is not the tallest dude in the world. And if you draft a guy like Rome Odunze, who's 6'2", by the way, he's not the fastest dude in the world, but when you have on a trait, according to this scouting report, hyper flexible route runner, I love that. He's also very physical. He can do a lot of things right. Lacks elite play strength. I don't agree with at all, but he's physical. He can do a lot of things right. He can get much stronger. He has a lot of potential. Some people like him more than Neighbors, which I disagree with as well. But with the way I feel like there's only 3 receivers that are good enough to possibly be drafted in the top 15 of the draft tomorrow, I feel like this has to be a trade up, and I feel like the New Orleans Saints would be the team to trade up. Fashanu, I like him a lot too, but it's the domino is going to start to fall. Not what the Patriots do, it's going to be what the Chargers do. Do they go tackle just because it's the best player available, or do they go with Neighbors? After that, I feel like that's where the domino could start to fall. We maybe see the Vikings, who I actually have staying put at 11 and then taking JJ McCarthy. Do you see another team trade up that we haven't talked about yet? The domino is going to fall out with the Chargers, who I have taking a tackle. Maybe they take Neighbors. I don't think Giants fans would be frustrated with Rome Odunze because, listen, you already have your really deep threat with Jalen Hyatt, your fast, deep threat. Why not get a guy who can be really effective over the middle, fast, strong? He can do a lot of things right. I think that'd be a good pick with Rome Odunze. What do you think about that one?
I mean, listen, I'm not opposed at all if Odunze ends up being the pick. I just, it just sucks. I mean, just the luck of just, your 2 top needs being quarterback and wide receiver, and the top 5 picks are all quarterback and wide receiver. That's a very Giants thing to happen, by the way. But listen, Odunze is a guy who, like you said, is a top 10, top 15 talent. He fills the biggest need on the team. I would still be okay with that. Obviously, I'd rather Neighbors, but ultimately, we need more wide receiver help. That's been known. I just don't really have a lot of confidence in our quarterback play to get the most out of said receivers, but hopefully we can score just at least a little bit more points next season. Just one more thing I want to talk about before we're done with the NFL draft. The Los Angeles Rams, first round pick since 2016, the Jared Goff #1 overall selection. So I wonder what they're going to do. I mean, they haven't been here in a while, haven't they?
They haven't, and I right now have them. I think their pick can go in like 25 different ways. I have them going corner because their corners aren't very good. I mean, they have Jalen Ramsey. I know they traded Jalen Ramsey. Why not go get out and get one of the more scrappy corners in the draft and Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo? I think that could be a solid pickup. Maybe they go offensive tackle. I think they could possibly go edge. Maybe draft a guy like Chop Robinson, which has such an LA name. So I feel like that'd be perfect for them. They can go tackle with an Armarius Mims or JC Latham. They can go defensive tackle. They have a million different ways this can go. With the desperation, I feel like for some teams to pick quarterbacks in the middle of the first round, I have Denver picking Penix. I have them trading. This is going to make no sense. They're going to trade down and still get Penix. Does that make sense? Not really, but listen, hear me out. I have Knicks then going immediately afterwards because I don't have a lot of faith in Geno Smith with Seattle, especially the lack of guaranteed money at the end of the deal. I feel like that'd be a good fit for Bo Nix to learn behind Geno for a year. And then Bo Nix would be perfect to slide right into the Seattle offense. He's played in the Pacific Northwest for a good amount of time now. I feel like that's a perfect fit. One other note that I had, just a weird thought. There's no deal in place right now, and according to Adam Schefter, there is no deal imminent for Lions quarterback Jared Goff. Do we think the Lions could be a surprise to draft a quarterback in the first round?
I mean, if they love the guy, yeah, but I just don't really see the rationale. I mean, just with how little success his team has had over the years, Jared Goff has provided stability at the quarterback position. Now, granted, they may not like the ultimate price tag they're going to have to pay Jared Goff, but in the NFL, we know quarterbacks get paid a very high amount. So if I'm the Lions, I just stick with what's working, stick with that culture. I keep Jared Goff. But you were talking about Knicks and Penix, and that's going to be another thing I'm looking for too, because originally people just had those top four being the first round quarterbacks. And now we're starting to hear Michael Penix, Bo Nix being possible first rounders, which is something I didn't think we'd be talking about. I mean, I even saw a report, don't think it's going to happen, by the way, but it would be very much a repeat of 2019 that the Giants may even take Michael Penix #6 overall, which once again, if that happens, not going to be the happiest man in the world.
Really?
But I think Penix is a better prospect than McCarthy personally, but I think it's just, once again, repeating the same thing that happened with 2019.
Right.
It's just you take a quarterback too high when you could get him later. So I think that would just be making the same mistake again. But once again, like I said, I'm just very unsold on JJ McCarthy. I'm not a big JJ McCarthy guy by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, Michael Penix just really fell because of the injury history. People pointing to that, but I think he's just a better arm talent. But yeah, I mean, could Penix and Knicks? We could tie the record. We could have 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round. It just goes to show you how quarterback needy NFL teams are now in today's league.
Yeah, and then quickly, yeah, Robbie, like to answer your question about the Detroit Lions and Jared Goff. No, I don't think that should happen at all. I mean, come on, it's it's already hard enough to find quarterbacks that are good in this league, let alone finding a quarterback that could take you to the championship game. No, you got to pay that man. He should be, he's came to Detroit as part of a trade that seemingly would just reinforce the sadness of Detroit sports, and he completely flipped the script of this organization. So no, I think he should 100% get signed back.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you. I don't know why. They signed Amon-Ra St. Brown and Penei Sewell to giant contracts today, which they both deserve it. Amon-Ra St. Brown, $30 million a year. Did not think we'd be saying that, but here we are. I know the next topic.
Well, I will say just one more note, because just going back to the Penix fan, if the Giants end up taking, say, Neighbors at 6, maybe trade end of the first round for Penix, I think that'd be kind of a savvy move.
Ooh,
which
I like that.
Keep an eye out on that, because we've seen quarterbacks, we've seen Lamar Jackson go number 32 overall. I could see a team that we don't expect taking a flyer on Penix or Knicks, maybe trade him back near the 20s, 30s. So I'd say look out for that.
I like that idea too, Colin. Well, we're going to transition to the hardwood, to the NBA playoffs. And might I just say that this line first? These playoffs, well, for one, have been, for me, confusing because, well, the Hawks repeated the stale narrative of we suck, and they went out and lost to the Bulls. There's been a couple other narratives, but I'll start with these two. Actually, no, I'm going to bring up one other point. Shout out to the Nuggets who pull off that insane comeback on Monday. That was insanity. And they are 2-0 up because that's what I said was going to happen. I said they were going to win it all. That's one of my teams to win it all. Also, shout out to the Pacers for winning a playoff game. That was going to happen, but they did it. Congrats. Colin, we'll start with you. What's been your favorite storyline of the playoffs so far?
Well, I think two biggest storylines in terms of drama are the Nuggets Lakers series as well as the Knicks Sixers. But I kind of want to let Chris go a little bit more into the Knicks. So I'll talk a little bit about the Nuggets and the Lakers. Just the fact that you mentioned that in that game too. I mean, they're up by 20 points. AD's having a great game, and yet the Nuggets still find a way to come back and win. And it's funny because for so long in LeBron James' career, he's been on the other side of this, right? I mean, he absolutely dominated the Boston Celtics for years. He dominated the Toronto Raptors. Now he's on the other side of it, where the Denver Nuggets just have the Los Angeles Lakers number. They've won 10 in a row against them. We'll see what happens in LA. I don't think they get swept back-to-back years, but it's a real possibility. Just the Denver Nuggets now are, I think, just obviously Boston, but they don't have the championship pedigree. Denver Nuggets are a great basketball team, probably maybe the best we have in this league. And we saw that game winner from Jamal Murray last night. I mean, 2 nights ago, just Jamal Murray in general. He's never made an all-star team, but you just know this guy just turns it up come playoff time. One of the more underrated players in the league, which is funny to say because he's the number 2 option on the championship team. But I think he should get more recognition. Regular season stats, he's not as good as he is in the playoffs, but in the playoffs, the guy just turns it up. And in the end of the game, you'd think you go to the MVP, Nikola Jokic, guy who's won 2 MVP awards, guy who a lot of people consider to be the best in the league. But Jamal Murray takes a switch, shoots over Anthony Davis, and it was good. And that was just a great night in basketball for general. I think we knew going into the Lakers were going to win this series. It's just that that's a game that they should have had. So, that's just why I think we all just agreed that the Lakers are going to lose to the Nuggets. But I'll let Chris go a little more into it. But that finish in game 2 with the Knicks Sixers, man, that was probably, maybe the best ending to a Knicks game ever. I think we could already say that. Just the fact that you're down by 5 points with 30 seconds to go. That is remarkable. And they've been doing it without Jalen Brunson. He has not had a good first 2 games, but yet the Knicks are still there. Obviously we're hearing Joel Embiid with his head down in post-game press conferences saying we're still going to win. He doesn't look too confident to me. Nick Nurse is complaining about calls as well. The Sixers actually filed a grievance against the NBA about the officiating, which to me, I don't agree with. The Knicks, on paper, the Sixers should be the better team, but the Knicks, the Villanova Knicks, Josh Hart, DiVincenzo, Brunson getting it done. Chris, what do you have to say about the first 2 games?
It's just been unbelievable. The first one was a tight game until the fourth quarter. They start to come back, and they have a really good fourth quarter. And they win a good basketball game against a very good Sixers team that, of course, we know Joel Embiid is back, and he's cooking, and he's just been incredible. But the Knicks have just been slightly better. And in game 2, right, you said it with that ending where Dante DiVincenzo has that 3, and the Garden just, as crazy as I've heard the Garden in a very long time. It's just all the videos of the reactions from the crowd, just unbelievable. And that's the magic of that arena, that it really, the potential it has when it has good sports teams. It's really, I think, unmatched. It's unbelievable how loud it gets in there, and how there's just a certain vibe in the air that it has, and it's just unbelievable. And that's, undoubtedly, if you want to argue if it's the greatest Knicks moment ever, or ending to a game, and rather, it's 100% easily the greatest moment in Knicks history of this century. 100%. This is by far, I think, the best Knicks team we've seen. And imagine if Jalen Brunson can pick it up, and he still dropped 24, I believe, on in game 2. He was still, it's not like the guy went completely cold. It's just, you obviously expect him to be much better, better with the ball too. It just doing more, and I think he'll get better. They go to Philly tomorrow. They're not going to sweep. Absolutely not. I just don't. I don't know. I don't think they can. The Sixers team is very good. It's a very good basketball team. I think they will find a way to at least get this to 6, but with the way these first 2 games have gone, I just think the Knicks have really, put their foot down as the better team. I mean, to be able to come back like they did in game 2, it's just unbelievable. I mean, the Knicks, that's not a game they usually the Knicks, you know, win. I mean, it's just not. I mean, it's just usually the narrative is against them always, and they find a way to lose that game, and they had that incredible comeback at the end. Just that whole sequence was just unbelievable. Right, and that's another thing, Brunson, right, with the late 3 as well, or the late field goal as well. I mean, it was just it was a lot of things have to go right. A lot of things went right from that win, and it's really unbelievable. I'm enjoying every second of it, and I'm just nervous to go back to Philly. I think that's the only reason I'm like kind of holding in my celebration. But 100% great things from the Knicks. It's really incredible, and yeah, hopefully they could keep it up.
And I just kind of want to go into the rotation they run so far, because the Knicks just run an 8-man rotation, but every single guy in this 8-man rotation, I mean, they're so vital to this team's success. Obviously, Jalen Brunson, the superstar of the team. Then we go to Dante DiVincenzo, just always hits timely 3-pointers, a guy who's a sniper you can rely on. Josh Hart played 48 minutes a game to the entire game. He is just, I mean, if you talk about a guy who's scrappy, who will, just disrupt the game. I mean, 21 points and 15 rebounds for a guy who's a guard. I mean, that is always insane, especially for a guy who, for most of his career, is just a bench player, a role player. But he's had such a big role in this Knicks team. OG Anunoby, obviously, was a big offseason addition. I mean, he just, once again, fits perfectly into his role. Isaiah Hartenstein, he has been kind of he's been as good of a defensive player as Mitchell Robinson, but he's also given them some offensive game as well. I mean, Mitchell Robinson had only 1 point in game 2, but he did a great job defending Joel Embiid, probably a better job than Hartenstein did. So they're going to maybe look for that matchup later on. Deuce McBride as well as the point guard coming off the bench, which, by the way, a lot of people were saying, why would you get rid of Emmanuel quickly? He was a great point guard off the bench. But Deuce McBride has done a great job doing the same offense that Quickly has done, but he also did a great job blocking up Tyrese Maxey. Then we go to Bojan Bogdanovic, who, of course, is another 3-point shooter. Just once again, it's only an 8-man rotation, not a lot of star power besides Brunson, but everyone on this team just knows their role and they get the job done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this Knicks team, I was able to watch game 1. I saw the ending of game 2. You saw the argument for Philly, but here's my question, Philadelphia. What the hell was that? How do you blow that lead at the end? I don't care if you have possession or not. The way they played that last 90 seconds against the Knicks a couple of days ago, inexcusable. You thought this team could really compete with the Knicks. I was wrong. I was very wrong. I said this series is going to be competitive. It has been, but Philadelphia, what the heck, man. But you highlighted Deuce McBride. My favorite part about this is that you are paying this man nothing for the next 3 years. Have fun. He's making like $4 million, which whoever his agent is should be banished to somewhere else, because how the heck does that happen? But if you really think of the full scheme of things, there was the trade for when IQ got sent to the Raptors. Deuce McBride slides into the point guard role. Right before that trade was when they signed the extension for McBride. McBride is now getting underpaid, heavily underpaid now over the next couple of years. That's just something to watch out for in the future. Look, going back to the Sixers for a moment, great series to start for Tyrese Maxey. He's been awesome for the Philadelphia 76ers. 33 points in game 1. I believe he had like 30-something points in game 2. Joel Embiid is just doing Joel Embiid things. He did get hurt in game 1. Did he play a lot in game 2? I did not get to watch like the majority of this. I don't know what happened. And then my boy Tyrese Maxey, who I've been a fan of for a very long time, he went crazy again. He had 35 points in 44 minutes. Joel Embiid actually did play 39 minutes after getting hurt allegedly in game 1. The issue is for the 76ers, only one player scored double digits, not named Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. If you want to be competitive, you want to go out and beat the New York Knicks, they need somebody else to step up and score. I don't know who that's going to be for them, but shout out to the Knicks. They've done their job. They've done a lot of things right with Josh Hart, Hartenstein, Brunson, DiVincenzo, Miles McBride, Anunoby. They've done everything right to this point. They look better than when they played Cleveland last year. I will say that. But that's what happens when you can get a guy like OG who, with a change of scenery for him and some others, how big this can change, how big your team can change. And this team looks great. 2-0 series lead. Well done for the Knicks. What's another series you guys have been watching out for? I love how Cleveland looks. Cleveland looks great. The Timberwolves won last night. There's just so many good series to talk about. Which series do you guys want to highlight next?
Well, I guess we'll talk a little bit about Pacers and Bucks because, the first game we were talking a lot about how Damian Lillard's had a down season, but he had 35 points in the first half that propelled them to the victory. The game two, the Pacers took. So once again, I think the series is going to be a dogfight, and it really says a lot about what this Bucks team is made out of, because if they can win a series without Giannis and he comes back, I think the Bucks are going to be very scary. Maybe you're looking at a potential matchup against the Knicks in the second round. We have to see how the bracket plays out. But, Indiana, they were very good at the start of this season. You remember they were in the play-in tournament. They went to the championship game against the Lakers. Ultimately, though, they kind of fell off into the second half of the season, but this is still a very talented team. They made that middle season acquisition for Pascal Siakam. You pair that with Miles Turner, Tyrese Halliburton. I think this is going to be a very competitive series. Once again, it really just comes down to Damian Lillard. If he can go back to being that guy who he was in Portland, because like I said, it hasn't been the same results this year in Milwaukee. But if he can channel Portland, Damian Lillard, maybe the Bucks can pull this out. But I think this is going to be a series that could go 6 or 7.
Yeah, before we make some more comments, we have some breaking news from Cincinnati, Ohio. According to Adam Schefter, 3-time Pro Bowl edge rusher Trey Hendrickson has requested a trade from the team as he's due to make $15 million a year and is looking for more long-term security than what Cincinnati has been willing to offer. Quick thoughts on that before we're going back to the NBA.
I mean, obviously for Cincinnati, they're a team who I think is going to contend next year. In terms of Hendrickson, though, I mean, if you got request a trade, often you have to make that. It's not good for the locker room to keep that guy around. It just sucks for them, losing another piece in that defense. I still think Cincinnati is going to be very good next year because they were still playing good football when Joe Burrow was healthy. So as long as number 9's in the center, I'm not too worried about Cincinnati in terms of making the postseason. But when you're going up against those Kansas Cities, the Buffaloes of the world, the Baltimores, you have to have a good defense, have to have a good pass rush. So Trey Hendrickson would be a huge loss for them if that ends up happening.
Yeah, obviously, you summed it up, and you definitely don't want to lose a guy like that on your defense, especially since they were playing better football down the stretch, and they're trying to get back to the top. And I guess the only thing I would ask is, where do you think he's going to get traded?
I have no idea. That does bring another possible storyline to tomorrow, because remember, T. Higgins requested a trade. Nothing has gone forward on that trajectory. We've heard multiple other players be rumored in trades, like Brandon Ayuk. Tomorrow makes it even more interesting with another possible player to be traded tomorrow. Just one quick thing. R.I.P. Zach Wilson. These guys wanted me to address it earlier. I'll briefly address it. It sucks to see him go. I've been giving him a lot of praise, giving him a lot of credit. A lot of people have been disagreeing with me on that, and I think the change of scenery will be good. I agree with Colin from earlier. I would say Zach Wilson over Jared Stidham, just because Zach Wilson started longer. Though I do think Jared Stidham's a little bit underrated. I think Zach Wilson would be the better piece for them, but I do think, like I said earlier, they're probably going to draft a quarterback. I don't know when, but that's just another storyline for next season. I don't know if the Jets play the Broncos next year. That would be a fun storyline to see Zach Wilson beat the Jets. That would be I would be pretty mad, but I don't know how mad I would be about that. But listen, got to do what you got to do. Jets got a 6th round pick out of it and had to retain salary, which sucks.
The Jets do play the Broncos at MetLife Stadium.
That's fun. I swear to God, Denver, if you don't start Zach Wilson against the Jets, we'll have problems. But yeah, that's just another news. Also, another quick bit of news: Micah Parsons was got the 5th-year player option as expected, and Justin Fields will not be getting his 5th-year option with the Steelers. Back to basketball, and Chris, thoughts on Pacers and Bucks, which has been an intriguing series so far.
Well, yeah, because I remember last week, and I think it was you, Robbie, that said you don't think the Pacers are going to win a game in the series.
I said they were not going to win more than one.
Okay.
I think that's what I said.
Well, I mean, good for them for winning a game. Listen, I think they still are a good young team. I mean, I don't know if they're going to win the series, but they're a good young team. They've shown they can at least win a game and bring it back. Hey, look, they're going back to Indiana with a tied series. You never know what could happen, but yeah, a very hard fought win yesterday. Or yeah, it was yesterday, and good for them. Good for them overall. I mean, in terms of other series, yeah, I guess I will touch on the Cleveland Orlando series, which has been very good. I mean, two very steady wins for the Cavaliers. I mean, they really commanded the game very well. I was watching a bit of Game One, flipping between that and the Yankee game, and just commanding the game well. I mean, Orlando's coming in as a young and up and coming, really good team, and Cleveland also is that as well. I mean, very good basketball team, and they were able to just command the ball well. Not let the pressure get to them, not let the magic really run away with it, and just tack on points, and then they ended up grabbing, I think, like a 10-15 point lead at one point and then winning by that. So two very similar wins as well. There obviously Donovan Mitchell's been there. Jared Allen's been getting a ton of rebounds as well. I mean, the team overall has been just playing really good basketball, and it's interesting to watch for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a fun series. I think people may have expected Orlando to like win a game at this point, but Cleveland's looked really good. We'll talk about the games for tonight in a moment, but the other series what a start though from the Minnesota Timberwolves. What a start for them. I said this was going to be an upset, a lock upset. I look pretty stupid for that now. The Timberwolves have taken the first two games pretty convincingly, I would say, in terms of point margin. They've been winning on an average of around 15. Actually, I think it's about 17 and a half points, give or take one or two. But wow, what a great start from the Timberwolves. They're 2-0 up going into Phoenix, and the Mavericks just beating the Clippers last night. That game was nuts. They played a great game on Sunday for the most part up until down the stretch. But what a fun start to the playoffs. Any other series you want to talk about before we talk about the two games tonight?
I mean, game two happens tonight, but obviously the first game for Thunder Pelicans a lot closer than people would have expected. And I think this is what happens when we're talking about OKC in general, because I think, they're a very talented team, but just this is this group's first time in the postseason. There's going to be growing pains. There's going to be some, unsteadiness. So could the Pelicans make it competitive? I think they could. OKC should still win this series, but I have to say I was impressed with New Orleans and how they came out in game one, especially without Zion. But when you talk about guys like, CJ McCollum, who has been in the league for a while, a lot of playoff runs at Portland, you talk about Brandon Ingram, guys who are experienced in the NBA, I think that we could see a little bit more of a competitive series than a lot of people thought going in.
Right, yeah, and I guess I'll talk about the other game, Boston versus Miami. I mean, I do think the Celtics are going to win this game. They had a tremendous victory the other night in game one. I mean, just overall great basketball from everyone. I mean, we know this team is probably going to be in the championship finals, or the conference finals. Sorry, and I mean, they're amazing. I mean, there's not one player who really stands out, and of course, I think it's obvious what Jason Tatum did in game one, but just overall really good numbers from everyone. And they really ran away with that one. I mean, with the Heat, I mean, Bam had a really good game. But of course, it's gonna be tough for the Heat. It is. I mean, I think they still have the ability to come back, but Jimmy Butler not playing in that game is definitely devastating for them, and or not being there, right, is devastating. And I do think the Celtics are going to take game two as well.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Celtics winning tonight against Miami Heat. I like the Thunder beating the Pelicans. Real quick before we go to baseball, next week is our last show. What is a story or a headline that we expect to hear heading into our final show regarding the NBA playoffs? Whether it would be a player going nuts, a particular series going the opposite way of where it currently is, or opposite what we expected. While these guys think of an answer, I'm going to go first. And that is, there's a lot of options. But I'm going to go with how much this Pacers team can change the series with Milwaukee. I don't know when Giannis is coming back. I have a feeling now because Pascal Siakam has been playing out of his mind, and Tyrese Halliburton has done absolutely nothing. And he's 12-12 in the last game. So you have the feeling, but the one is this game actually at 1? Is this real? On Tuesday afternoon game, sure, why not? I will go with the Pacers possibly switching the narrative on Milwaukee and winning more games than I expected. They play game number 3, I believe, on tomorrow. Or like around that on Friday or whenever it is on Friday, excuse me. So that's my thing to watch out for as a little bit of a reverse narrative from what I said earlier. I'm going to go with the Pacers flipping the script on Milwaukee.
I mean, one series we didn't talk about was the Mavericks and the Clippers. The Clippers had a pretty convincing game 1. The Mavericks were able to squeeze out game 2 last night. I picked Dallas going in. I think that they could do pretty. I think they'll take both games in Dallas. I think that's kind of where the Mavericks are going to pull away and end up winning the series. I said that the Suns. I was kind of hesitant to pick the Suns against the Timberwolves, but I always often do, support the Suns in this show. I always am confident in Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. So I think that Phoenix can change the narrative. I think they can take both games in Phoenix. It's just, once again, there's just too much talent here with Durant, Beal, and Booker to be down like this to the Timberwolves team. And I think the Timberwolves are a very good team. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we saw even Jaden McDaniels come in with 25 points in game 2. It's just hard for me to imagine a scenario where the Timberwolves stay that dominant in Phoenix. So I think that by next week, the Suns could, possibly be on their way to winning the series, possibly can make it competitive. That's what I'll say right now. I think they could turn that around. They're too talented to not.
If you want me to be honest with you, what I'm hoping to talk about next week, I'm hoping to talk about the Knicks sweeping the Philadelphia 76ers. No, they're not going to do it. It's not going to be a sweep. Who knows? Listen, again, who knows? Maybe they don't even win the series. Who knows? I really love what I saw in the first 2 games. It was amazing. I'm not going to be that fan. I'm not jinxing the Knicks. I'm just saying, in terms of what I want to talk about next week, I would love to come here and talk about how the Knicks won this series and are heading to the next round, because then I think we'll learn a lot about the Knicks, whether the future, whether it's they have a massive fall off in Philly and the Sixers end up coming back and showing their prowess and moving on to the next round, and then we'll talk about what the Knicks need to maybe improve on. Or we're talking about who they're going to face next and how that's going to go. So really, yeah, I'm 100% hoping for the Knicks series to, at least have more conclusions, some type of conclusion by next week. So we can talk about that. That would be a lot of fun.
We're going to do a little bit of a reverse pivot here. And we're going to head to the Diamond to talk New York Yankees baseball to start off with, before I give a little bit of things that I've watched out for in baseball, because I have so much to quickly address. But we'll send it over to these two first. The New York Yankees are atop of the American League East, a half game up on the Baltimore Orioles. They have split their last 10. They've won 5 of their last 10. One thing I've noticed with them is how good they've been on the road. They're 9-4. Second most wins in their division on the road. To be fair, the Boston Red Sox are 3-7 at Fenway this year, which makes no sense. But here we are. The Yankees, top of the division, half a game up. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, what we are seeing, one thing, and I don't mean to be negative, right? It's early, it's still early in the season. Baseball is like this. It's not a complaint. It's just stating a fact. Is I saw a stat that this is the 8th game in a row. Yesterday's game was the 8th game in a row that the Yankees have scored all their runs in like basically 1 inning, and all the other innings pretty much lifeless on offense. It's definitely been a rougher go over the past week, but listen, they're still winning games. They won the series at home against Tampa Bay. No one's complaining. It's been going very well. The biggest issue right now, and I think we've kind of, it's obviously still something to look out for, but the infield defense, like we were talking about last week, that was last week. Now that's still something to watch out for. That still is a problem. It just feels like maybe the past couple games that hasn't led to anything bad for this team. Really, the story I think has been Aaron Judge, who's been really struggling. I mean, it's listen. I think we all want to answer the simple answer that it's Aaron Judge. He's having a slump. He'll figure it out. It's Aaron Judge. But, it definitely is concerning still. You don't want to have that happen to your top guy. You want him to figure it out. It's been a lot of, sliders on the outside of the plate that he's been flailing at and missing. And yesterday he got a nice double and scored a run, and all the Yankee runs pretty much came in the first inning yesterday, but they won. But other than that, it had definitely has not been Aaron Judge's best start to the year. But again, just taking it day by day, the Yankees are still winning series. They hopefully win the series against the A's. Hopefully they win the next 2 games. It's been tough kind of beating the A's recent for the Yankees. I mean, they got shut out on Monday by JP Sears, the former Yankee farmhand, and Mason Miller closed out the game, who looks absolutely disgusting. And Zach Geloff hit a home run in the 2-run home run in the 9th inning. Also, the Aaron Boone ejection in the first, which was absolutely ridiculous. It's funny, but you can laugh, but it was absolutely terrible. Just a disgusting display of umpiring. I tell you, these umpires are not making it any better for themselves. They are not helping their own cause when other people bring up the robot umpires as a possibility. I mean, you talk about these arrogant jerks that a lot of these guys really are. I mean, Angel Hernandez has always kind of been that, very arrogant, never wants to be proven wrong or told that he's wrong. And then in this case, it's Hunter Wendelstedt, who throws out Aaron Boone after issuing kind of a warning. And it turned out to be a fan that was standing right behind Aaron Boone that was actually yelling. And what I thought was funny about the whole thing was how the fan was wearing like a blue pullover, and after that whole thing, he takes it off, and you just see him wearing a white shirt. I thought that was really funny. But I can't. You're gonna blame the guy? I mean, he's a fan. He's yelling. It's a pretty simple process. The fan should be able to yell. The manager, if he's told not to, he shouldn't. And Aaron Boone said nothing, and he gets thrown out for no reason. And then where I talk about the arrogance of it all is that his response, Wendelstedt's response at the end of the game, was basically, he's the manager, and I don't care if it was a fan that yelled. Boone is the manager, and he's got to be held responsible. What kind of sense does that make? Absolutely ridiculous. Just a disgraceful showing, and I think he should be penalized in some way by Major League Baseball. He should receive some type of penalty, because that is just unbelievable. Fine, you don't want to, if you don't want to, kick Angel Hernandez out of the game, at the very least, what you got to do is you got to give this guy something, not a fine, but some type of little suspension or something. That is not okay. That is not fair. It's not why the Yankees lost the game. Absolutely not. It's not fair. It's not right. At that point, there's no limit on this umpire's power at that point. It's just awful. So there's that. But when it comes to the Yankees, listen, they just got to keep it going. The pitching has been steady. It's not been, otherworldly like it was. I remember in the first half of 2022, where like everyone had an ERA below 3. It's been, some guys have had rougher goes, but like Carlos Rodon has had a very nice start to the season. Really nice start to the year. I mean, really good. Not blowing you away. He's not giving you a 7-inning shutout with 10 strikeouts every game, but he's keeping teams off balance. He's keeping them scoreless. He's doing what he needs to do, and that's that. Marcus Stroman, same thing. He's not blowing you away, but he's getting outs. He pitched a hard-fought game yesterday, giving up 3 runs over, I think it was 5 or 6. Listen, that's what you need. That's what you need from him as you're trying to bridge to Garrett Cole coming back. Nestor Cortez he was very good on Saturday against the Rays, even though we lost that one. But I mean, other guys, Luis Gil was very good on Sunday against the Rays. For some reason, I'm blanking out on who pitched to Friday. Clark Schmidt. Clark Schmidt's been very solid for the Yankees overall. I mean, he's been really good. So not really being blown away with the pitching, but they're getting the job done, and the team is just winning. And I like it. I like what I'm seeing, because it's proving that maybe this team, and again, baseball could change with a day. A day could change an entire season for a team. But the fact that this team isn't going on some like massive 10, 13 game winning streak proves to me they can lose a game every now and again, but come back the next day and still find ways to win. That's what I like about this team, and that's what I like. I really like that. That's what this team is doing, and they are wrapping up the series against the A's. They go to Milwaukee, who's been good, and then I believe they come back to face Houston. Oh no, sorry, they go to Baltimore. They go to Baltimore, and then they come back to play Detroit and Houston. So an interesting schedule. Definitely going to be a big test on over this weekend and next week. 4 game set in Baltimore is going to be huge, right? That's going to be for the division, or not for the division, but that's going to be a big division matchup. And yeah, before I give it over, yeah, just really talking when it comes to the other side of town, the New York Mets. I really like what I'm seeing from them too, man. I mean, it just I really like their a similar thing with the Yankees in that they're not right. They're not going to sweep LA. And if they swept the Dodgers, I feel like then you'd be saying, man, that was a fluke. The Dodgers really struggled. No, they had 2 hard-fought victories on Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday wasn't their day. Adrian Hauser didn't have it. Tyler Glasnow was unbelievable on Sunday. He was disgusting. 8 innings, 10 strikeouts.
Awesome.
I think he got. He was just absolutely disgusting. He. I mean, I don't know. I might have to pick him to win the Cy Young Award. He if he stays healthy, he's nasty. Just being 6'8" and can just simple delivery, can just throw the ball 98 miles an hour. I think they did lose the series to the Giants, I believe. Yeah,
They're playing right now.
right. Then they're going to win this game. Hopefully.
Yeah, it's 6-1.
Reed Garrett has been a hell of a find, and I know he's in the game right now for the Mets. He's been incredible. But Logan Webb was disgusting yesterday for the Giants. 8 innings. I mean, just amazing. He's really, really good pitcher. The Mets, looked like this was going to be a giveaway game because, and funny enough, it's the reigning Cy Young Award winner who was going to take the mound, Blake Snell. And usually when you're facing a reigning Cy Young Award winner, that's not necessarily good news, but he's been really bad to start the year. And man, it really tells you how important spring training is for a lot of these guys. Although Jordan Montgomery looked very good in his first start with Arizona. But they still end up going with the opener today, and it really didn't work out for the Giants today. And the Mets are up 6-0, and I think the 6th.
6-1, bottom 7.
The Giants are cooking though. Michael Conforto double. It's second and third, 2 outs.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not a Met fan, so I don't think I jinxed it for the Mets, but hopefully they can come back, and then they have a big series against St. Louis and the Cubs. And then, one last little thing, and it's kind of, I was just talking about this before, and I can't believe I'm going to mention this. The Mets, the Mets are having Dollar Hot Dog Night next week.
Wait, what?
And which is, by the way, really cool promo.
Oh,
I always
Jesus.
loves that the idea of can get 5 hot dogs for $5, which is great.
Oh,
And the Mets social media team thought it was a good idea to bring up that veteran of the game that they brought on the opening day. His name is Seymour Wiener. That's the guy's name. Okay, that's his name. I think he's over 100 years old, World War II veteran. Leave the poor guy alone. Okay, I mean, what are we doing here? We're saying, oh, Seymour Wiener presents Dollar Hot Dog Night. I mean, come on.
What are we doing?
What serious?
Oh
Like,
my
come on.
God.
It's
Wow.
okay. It's kind of funny, I guess, but I think in a way it is kind of disrespectful. I mean, he's a World War II veteran. Listen, I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure I don't even know if he knows about this whole thing. That's just come on. It was barely funny when some fans were talking about making fun of his name when he was actually brought out, which is still very disrespectful.
Yeah.
But okay, fine. That childish humor. But for the Mets social media team to say that their Dollar Hot Dog Night is presented by him, that's just very weird. And the Mets can do better than that. I mean, come on. I don't know. I just think that's me. I don't dislike the Mets, but that's I don't like that. I don't think that's a good look, really.
Colin?
Just quickly on the Yankees, Aaron Judge's slump definitely concerning, but I think he just has to pick it up. He's been too good over the years. I remember when our show was ending last week, we had that game against Toronto. He ended up coming through that big clutch hit. Really, one of his only moments of the season so far. The Oakland series, JP Sears, I left him on the bench for fantasy. Was very upset that ended up happening. Yeah, kind of concerning when you only score in 1 out of 18 innings against the Oakland Athletics. We'll see how it goes the last 2 games here. Like Chris was saying, the schedule though coming up, especially with those series against Baltimore, going to be a huge one. But just they were able to win the series against the Rays. Always good when you win a division series. Just keep the momentum going. I thought the lineup would be producing runs more consistently, but as long as you're still winning games, I don't think anyone's going to complain.
Yeah, just some notes from me across the entirety of Major League Baseball before I talk about the Mets. The White Sox are astonishingly bad. They're 3-20. I thought was what we were saying about Oakland. They are bottom. They're still only 14 games back of the Guardians, which is saying something in itself already. The big note in the American League is the American League West is also terrible in terms of records. The Astros are bottom at 7-17. The Mariners are top with barely a 500 record. One team in this division is over 500 at pretty much almost at the end of the first month. That is terrible. The AL Central is more teams over 500, just for reference. In the National League, the Braves are the Braves. They've won 8 of 10. The Phillies, though, have been great, too. They've won 8 of 10, albeit they beat the White Sox in 3 of those games, I believe. So you take it with a grain of salt. In the Central, the Brew Crew are doing the Brewers Brew Crew things. Cubs just lost Cody Bellinger. He's going to the injured list. They're in second. The Reds, Ellie De La Cruz, looking very solid so far. He is playing great. The Pirates have fallen off a map. They've lost 7 of 10. Cardinals sit bottom. Out in the National League West, the Giants have finally decided to play baseball. They're in second and third, behind the Dodgers and the Mets. Quick thing on them. They've come back to earth a little bit. They've lost 3 in a row, but listen, 12-11, not going to be mad about it, as that will be the end of today's episode of Into the Stands. Thank you guys so much for watching. Tomorrow night, NFL Draft Special. We're running it back here on WIUR, 7:30 start time right here. We'll explain how we'll do the stream more on draft night. Myself, Cam, and Luke all in here. Make sure to check it out. But for Colin and Chris, I'm Robbie saying good night. I'll see you tomorrow.